Good evening, and welcome to Chesapeake Public Schools Family Empowerment webinar presented by the Office of Family and Community Engagement, FACE. I am Ana Medina, one of the FACE specialists. Our office, which is under the Department of Engagement, seeks to create meaningful partnerships in order to inspire, engage, and empower families, educators, and community agencies to support the initiatives of Chesapeake Public Schools. We are typically available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and can be reached by our main phone line at 757-482-5923 or FACE at cpschools.com. We are excited to offer our families a course catalog entitled Peak Parent University that outlines all of our events for the school year. You can catch up on pre-recorded webinars, access a wealth of educational resources, and make community connections to promote your family's well-being. Please visit www.cpschools.com and search Peak Parent University. We thank you for joining us tonight for Feeding Your Mind, Eating Healthy on a Budget. We are excited to have joining us tonight a panelist from Healthy Chesapeake, Ms. Teresa Licaro. Before we begin, I want to let you know this webinar is being recorded to share on our Chesapeake Public Schools YouTube channel. Participant cameras and the chat feature are disabled. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of the screen. We will answer all questions throughout the webinar tonight. And now we would like to introduce our panelist, Teresa Licaro, who has experience as a culinary instructor and currently works at Healthy Chesapeake, bringing healthy foods to our families, and we are so happy to have her join us tonight. After the webinar, we plan to send out the recipe that Teresa is making tonight, along with other recipes. Welcome, Teresa. Thank you for being here tonight. And at this time, I will turn the program over to you to start the cooking.
Thank you so much. And nice to see everybody. My name is Teresa Licaro. I am the Healthy Chef Program Manager for Healthy Chesapeake. And I will be sharing with you the healthy eating on a budget. So I don't know if anybody's grocery bill looks like mine. So we could all use a little help in the budget area, right? When you have a household full of children and busy lives, working parents, and finding time to cook, never mind to cook healthy, is such a challenge. So I'm going to help you out with a few little tips, and then we will make several recipes that you can utilize multiple ingredients to get a real bang for your buck when you're at the grocery store. So I think the most challenging part of cooking is planning. Planning out what you're going to make. What are the kids' favorites? Who's going to eat it? How do I make it healthy and taste delicious and enticing for all the kids ages 0 to 18, right? Or 0 to 55, whatever you have in your household. So that is probably the most challenging struggle I think that every family faces. So I have found that planning out your recipes, knowing that you have certain ingredients on hand, and making those recipes so that you're using all of your ingredients throughout the week. You may have an empty refrigerator at the end of the week, but that's what we want, right? So none of that food is going to waste. So to start off, I've found a great meal plan grocery list form for you. Laura, if you could share that form, that would be great. So this is one of the forms that you'll be getting today along with the recipes. And it's a Word document, it's a template, you can type right into it. So I figure if you get this will give you a good start to getting that jump on the planning process. And as you see, it has columns for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for all 7 days of the week. Some of those days, you'll know that you'll have leftovers because maybe some of those meals are a little larger, or you'll have a leftover night during the week. And that's where everybody goes in the fridge, maybe on a Thursday evening where you've cooked several meals throughout the week, and you empty out the fridge and everybody gets a different meal because it's whatever's left over. That's a really great night of the week. Also, sandwich night. That's a great quick night that you can either make soup or sandwich ahead of time, or you get those ingredients on that list and you get all of those items, and the kids can make their own. My kids love sandwich night. In our house, it's typically on Wednesday night because it's a busy night. And there's maybe some soup from the weekend left over, and salad is a quick, easy make, and then sandwiches, and they get to pick their own toppings. I add dressing to some of the salad, and they think it's better than Jimmy John's. So there is your opportunity to have something delicious and healthy, but also so you don't have to work so hard every single night, because that part's exhausting too. So tonight we are going to make several recipes. We're going to make a curry chicken with apples, which is one of the recipes you're seeing in front of you right now. And I think the challenge with understanding cost for groceries is knowing what your meal cost is versus what it costs to make the recipe versus what it costs to buy those groceries. There are three different prices. There's three different costs involved here. So the cost of what it may be to buy the groceries means the cost of what it costs to keep olive oil in your house, right? So this cost doesn't go into your recipe cost, only what you're using, maybe 2 tablespoons or 3 tablespoons of this $15, $18 bottle is going into that recipe cost. So you may end up spending $30 at the grocery store buying all these ingredients, but how many recipes can you make from those ingredients that you now have on hand? So you can see on this recipe in front of you, we're using chicken breast and black pepper and apples and onions and ginger and olive oil and garlic. And then you have spices, curry powder, garam masala, which we'll talk about in a little bit, cayenne pepper, all-purpose flour, chicken broth. These things are large quantity items that you're not buying just exactly what you need to make the recipe. So I've done a little bit of work for you here so that you can see your $30 or $40 grocery bill to buy all these large items in quantity in large bulk size. It's not the actual cost of your recipe. This recipe will cost you $13.55 to make. And per serving, it feeds, it's 6 to 8 servings. So it's $1.69 per serving. So that's pretty fantastic to be able to make a recipe for that cost in today's in market with inflation and how expensive groceries are. So now you'll have leftover ingredients, right? So what do we do with those leftover ingredients? How do I really utilize all of the coconut milk that's in this recipe so I'm not wasting my $2.99 on my coconut milk, right? And half of it's going in the refrigerator and it's not going to get used. What about, my olive oil? My olive oil I'm going to use in every recipe that I make over the next week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Sometimes it'll last a month. So you got to take that into consideration. Putting a little bit money out in the beginning keeps that healthy aspect moving along. So you are getting a good bang for your buck when you're buying olive oil in a larger size. And any brand is good. Buy the Food Lion brand. Buy it. It's really no different. The difference is the flavor, but the nutrition is not different. So if you want a really good tasting olive oil because you're doing something special, then spend the extra money and get that extra special olive oil that tastes really good. But if you're using it for every day, you're doing it for health purposes. So you can buy the lesser expensive ticket item, which is great. So to talk about what we can use these other ingredients for, we are going to make an apple pie overnight oat recipe with the ginger and the apples and some of the spices and the coconut milk. And then that recipe has plain yogurt, plain Greek yogurt, and cinnamon and all those apples. And so we're going to use those ingredients in making a chicken salad with the leftover chicken from your curry chicken recipe. So right there, you have a breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the same cost as each of those, as your one grocery shopping trip, which is really fantastic. And you'll be able to use that whole can of coconut milk in 2 recipes and it's gone. And then you have the yogurt and you'll be able to use the yogurt in 2 recipes and then it's gone. So you are getting every cent back in nutrition and in your money saving. So, all right. So now we are going to get started with the meal prep. As we're going through the demo, I'm happy to take questions. I don't have the Food Network camera settings or assistants or crew here, so I will be out of sight several times because I have to move my camera down so you can see what I'm doing here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut an onion. And so we're going to julienne the onion, and I'm just going to give you a brief view here. So when you cut an onion, talking about saving $1 here is making sure that we are not wasting anything. This is really the only waste of the onion and then the skin. So don't chop off half your onion. Utilize all of that onion. That's money in your pocket. If you think about it, in the case that all of your food are dollars. So this is it. This is all the waste I have from my onion. So we're gonna cut up this onion, and I know probably one of the most challenging things people have is how to cut an onion. And so there's a couple ways to cut an onion, and you'll have 5 chefs in a kitchen and they'll tell you the same thing. They'll show you 5 different ways to do the same cut. None of them are wrong. It's all about what works and what's comfortable for you. Keep your fingers tucked back. You can have your knife at a slight angle, or you can have it straight, and this will give you what we call a julienne cut. That julienne cut is really just, I call it a rainbow. It's like the little arch of the onion, and it goes right along with that little arch of the onion. That last piece is sometimes hard to cut, so now you have a beautiful julienne onion, and that's, onion strips. So really nice and easy way to cut an onion, and it's pretty quick. The key here is to have a sharp knife. That is the easiest and best way to have speed when you're cooking in a kitchen. Even in your own home kitchen, have a really nice sharp knife. It will make all the difference for you. All right, this onion, put a tablespoon of olive oil in the pan, and I'm going to add this onion. Now, this is a really big onion, so I'm only going to add half the onion. The other half of the onion I'm going to save for tomorrow's recipe. All right, so we're going to saute this onion, and while that's cooking, I'm going to get the chicken prepared. So we've got our chicken breast, or boneless, skinless chicken breast. Now, chicken is expensive. So if you want to use, another alternative, you can always substitute a protein. You just have to make sure that you're looking for a lean protein. Protein is the best way that we can reduce our saturated fat intake. So we're gonna just gingerly season this chicken with a little bit of salt. And I like to use kosher salt. It has a lower sodium content per tablespoon. And you want to look for that. But it really looks like I did a lot, but it's really just a little tiny bit of salt. And then they're large flakes. And if you're now using table salt, iodized salt, throw it out. You do not need to have all of that sodium in that iodized salt. There's no need for it. We only need a little bit of sodium, and our food has so much sodium in it nowadays. We really don't need to add extra sodium. And so when we use things like kosher salt or sea salt or pink Himalayan salt, those are great opportunities for you to reduce your sodium intake. And the less you use, the less that you'll want to use. So I'm an avid salt user in moderation, always in moderation. So you saute your onions, and then as we're sauteing those onions, things get nice and tender, we're going to add in the garlic and the ginger. So add in your minced garlic and your minced fresh ginger. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with fresh ginger, here is fresh ginger root. Fresh ginger root is it's so healing for you. You only need a tiny little piece. And you buy it in the grocery store by weight. You pay for it by weight. And it's like, I think it's something crazy like $4 a pound. But this little piece, it weighs like a few ounces. So you're really paying very little for it, and a little bit goes a long way, and you can use it in your recipes. It's beautiful stir fry. I love to put it in my rice. When I cook rice, I do ginger and garlic. It's really, really healthy for you. It's got antibacterial properties. It's wonderful for an upset stomach. And it has just a little boost of spice to your dishes. So it's really, really delicious. Something that I always keep in my kitchen. All right, so as we are sauteing those onions and they get nice and tender, we are going to remove them from the pan. Okay, so have a dish to the side. Remove your onions, and then we're going to add the remaining olive oil to the pan. There's another tablespoon. Might need like a tablespoon and a half, depending on the size of your chicken breast and the size of your pan. Now, the size of your pan really makes a difference for the amount of oil that you need to use. Okay, so you're going to take your chicken breast and you add them into your pan, right into the olive oil. Okay, and if you're using a large enough pan, you can do 4 chicken breasts at a time. Okay, so this pan is a little bit small. It's what I had that was going to work for this demo. So we're going to get a really nice sear on this. Okay, and then we're going to take it out and we'll let it rest. We're going to do about 3 minutes on each side, so it won't be fully cooked in the center, but we're going to finish cooking it later on because we want to get that nice sear on the chicken, which gives it a really nice golden brown crust. And then we'll do the same on the other side. You'll take that out, put it on a dish, and then you will finish the remaining chicken in the pan. And then we're going to use the same pan throughout the whole process here. So while that's cooking, if you notice, I used a pepper mill for the black pepper. So I love fresh cracked black pepper. It really is just, it makes such a difference in the flavor of the food and what you're putting that pepper on. But what it also does is it enhances the nutrient value of the spices that you're using, which is really, really important. So it helps with absorption of dry spices, especially when you're looking at things like turmeric and ginger and cumin. So use cracked black pepper if you can. You can buy it in a disposable grinder. They sell them at the grocery store. But grinders like this, they're not very expensive. You can get them on Amazon for 15, 20 bucks. And they last a long, long, long time. I think they even have them at like and places like that for less money. So definitely invest in a pepper mill. It's just, you will be so happy with it. All right, so we're searing the other side of our chicken, and when we take that out, when we get that, you can see there's a nice color on that chicken breast. You can see it. For time's sake, I'm not going to cook the rest of that chicken. But if you have a large enough pan, you could fit 4 to 6 chicken breasts in this pan, and it'll help. That's a 14-inch pan. So 12, 14-inch pan, you should be good to go. So in this recipe, we've got the apples, we've got the onions, we've got the ginger, we've got garlic. This is a really nutrient-dense recipe. And to make it even more nutrient-dense, we are using some suggestion for this recipe is to use some brown rice. Invest in some brown rice. White rice is great, but if you can get that whole grain brown rice, it will help add extra fiber to your diet, add additional nutrient value. I make brown rice all the time. The trick to making it taste good is season your cooking with it. So use chicken broth or vegetable stock or coconut milk like we're using tonight in place of water, and then season it. Season it with any spices that you're cooking with. Season it with a little drizzle of olive oil. You don't need butter. A little drizzle of olive oil so the rice doesn't stick. And garlic and ginger and like we're using tonight, garam masala, and make that rice really seasoned, flavorful. And you could add fresh herbs like parsley, cilantro, things like that. So really add that flavor, but you're not only adding flavor, you're adding nutrition too. So, all right, I'm gonna take the chicken breast out of the pan. So while we're doing this, we've got brown rice cooking on the stove. And as a vegetable side, my suggestion is to add sauteed spinach. So you have some beautiful green vegetable to add in. So, all right. So we're gonna put. There's enough olive oil in here. I think I'm just gonna add just a little drizzle. I didn't quite put that 2 full tablespoons in there. Just a little drizzle. And then I'm gonna drop in my apple. So I sliced up some apples. Any apple will work. Add anything that you like to eat. I know that the traditional suggestion is to cook with is Granny Smith. And that's just because it's a hearty apple. It's nice and firm. It stands up well to high temperatures and doesn't break down real easily. But any of the firm, crisp apples nowadays will work just fine. And you can see we're just sauteing the apples in the same pan, getting all those bits of flavor off the bottom. Those bits of flavor are called the fine, which is all that yummy bits from the chicken that's there, all the seasoning that you use. So those are the things you want to pull off the bottom of that pan. So if you can use one pan, one, it's less dishes for you to wash, and two, you're just going to enhance the flavor of your dish. All right, so you're going to just continue to saute your apple. All right. So Now we're going to add some of those spices in. So we are using a little bit of cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper is, if you like heat, you can add more. Spices are free calories. They're really something that you can just add whatever you like, and you don't have to worry about adding more nutritional value. You're adding more nutritional value when you add spices and fresh herbs. Got some cumin. Some cumin is really nice and smoky flavor. And cumin is, sorry, it's in with our curry powder. So curry is made up of 27 different herbs and spices. So that curry and cumin and smoked paprika and ginger and all those things are in your curry. So highly, highly nourishing. And we have a spice called garam masala. That might be new to some of you. Garam masala is a beautiful aromatic blend of spices. To buy this, it is a little on the pricey side, but I did include it in the cost for this recipe. So if it's not something that you've tried before and you're not sure that you'll like, you can substitute the garam masala with a little bit of allspice or a little bit of clove and nutmeg. That will also give a similar flavor, not exactly the same. You can also use Chinese five spice. It's also a really beautiful flavor. So use something that you are going to like so that you're not wasting your dollars. Okay. So I'm going to sprinkle in that garam masala. So I'm really seasoning up these apples, and their apples are really, they're just like little sponges. They're going to absorb all of this flavor. All right. So then I'm going to add those onions that I pre-cooked. I'm going to drop those back in here. Get that, all those beautiful flavors and spices in there. Okay. And then I'm going to let this simmer for just a few minutes. Okay. So when I finish cooking those onions,
And Teresa, we just want to remind everyone that we will be sending out this recipe after the webinar and some additional recipes also. And Teresa, you're cutting in and out just a little bit, but as she mentioned earlier, the Food Network production was not available for our webinar tonight. So we are recording this webinar and the closed caption should be available. But thank you very much.
Sorry if I'm in and out a little bit. If there's any questions, please feel free to throw some questions into the chat. I'm happy to answer anything as we're moving along through the demo. And the questions don't have to be about the food that I'm cooking. It could be about groceries. It could be about nutrition. Could be any question that you have that's health related that I hope I can answer. All right, so we're going to sprinkle in a little bit of flour. The purpose of the flour, now you can use any kind of flour that you need. If you need a gluten-free flour, almond flour, anything like that, you feel free to add any kind of flour that you need. This is really just for thickening purposes, to thicken your sauce. So we sprinkle a little bit of flour in, and then we toss our vegetables in that flour. Okay, we want those vegetables to absorb that flour and cook it so we're not eating any raw flour. We don't need a lot to thicken the sauce because our sauce is made from a mixture of coconut milk and chicken stock or chicken broth. And so it's going to thicken up really, really nicely. All right. So once your flour is fully absorbed by your vegetables and your onions, apples and your onions, then we're going to add a little bit of chicken stock. So it's about 1 cup of chicken stock. Now, this is called deglazing. So deglazing that pan is where, again, I was talking about the fond, the bits of flavor from the chicken that's in the bottom of that pan, because the flour will begin to stick to the bottom of that pan just a little bit. So we want to get that flavor off the bottom of the pan. Plus, we want to use it to thicken our sauce. So what I'm doing is I'm scraping the bottom of that pan just a little bit and stirring at the same time so that I'm getting those bits of flavor and everything that's stuck on the bottom of the pan off. So one, it doesn't burn, and two, so you get that all that richness and flavor. We don't want to leave any flavor in the pan. All right, so once the chicken stock is added and you have your you've gotten all those bits of flavor off the bottom of the pan, then you're going to add your coconut milk. Now, coconut milk is, now you can use any milk. You can use cow's milk, you can use coconut milk, you can use oat milk, almond milk, soy milk, rice milk, whatever you prefer. Just make sure it's unflavored. We don't want to add any sweetened milk in here. So this is going to act as heavy cream does to make a beautiful cream sauce. But it's not cream. We don't have that same level of saturated fat. So if you're using like cow's milk or rice milk that's very thin, like a low-fat milk, then you may want to not add the full 1 cup. You may want to only add 3/4 of a cup and see where your how thin your sauce is, where your what we call viscosity, your thickness of your sauce is. So I'm using light coconut milk. So choosing light gives you less of that fat, because anything that we're not using in moderation is not necessarily great for you, right? So if you're drinking too much milk of any kind, you have a level of fat that's not quite as nourishing for you as if you reduce that fat, right? So the light coconut milk is really nice. And I choose coconut milk because it has a little more of that natural fat, but it's full of omega fatty acids, which are really, really wonderful for you. And it's a good way, if you're not using it every day of your life, it can be really healthy for you. So like I said, everything in moderation. All right, so we are going to allow this to simmer just a little bit. Now we're going to add our chicken back to the pan. So I'm going to get a clean pair of towels here. I'm going to add this chicken back to the pan with that beautiful sauce and those apples and onions. And I'm going to allow the chicken to finish cooking in this pan. Okay, so bury your chicken down in there. Sauce. Okay, and then bury your chicken down into that sauce. Let's see here. So that chicken finishes cooking. Okay, so I've got some of those apples, sauce, and onions right over top of that chicken, and then finish cooking that chicken about 15 minutes or so until that chicken is fully cooked. Okay, through and through. 165 degrees should be your temperature of your chicken. All right. So chicken is cooking, rice is cooking on the stove while your chicken is cooking and you're on the stove top. Then we can, while this is cooking, we can also just a couple minutes right before the chicken is finished, then you can add some of your fresh spinach into a nice hot pan with garlic. You can add some ginger in there and a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil, and just dump this whole thing in there. It's this whole it's about 6 ounces of spinach, but this whole bowl is going to be not very much. It's going to cook down to be very little, but enough for definitely for 4 servings. So we'll do that right at the end. But while this is simmering, you have some leftover chicken, what you can do is make a chicken salad. Okay? So, salad. I've got some of that chicken already cooked. Got a couple of tricks up my sleeve here with the TV land, how to make your meal on TV land. So we've got ingredients in here, and you guys are getting this recipe also. So I've got my leftover curry chicken, with some apples and onions in there, and then I have some fresh diced apples, some dried cranberries, some sliced almonds, some diced celery, fresh herbs of your choice. I chose some tarragon and parsley and green onion. This is plain Greek yogurt, low fat, and a little bit of Dijon mustard. So I'm going to drop in my cooked and leftover diced chicken right into all of these ingredients. And then just stir it up, and you'll have a beautiful chicken salad for sandwich night or for Saturday afternoon watching football. All right, so stir in those ingredients. Now, the reason I'm using Greek yogurt instead of mayonnaise is because it has less saturated fat. Okay, so it's definitely something you want to keep in your refrigerator. And honestly, it's a little tangier than mayonnaise, and it's a beautiful substitute. You can use it in place of sour cream in recipes. You can use it in place of mayonnaise. You can add spices if you have like dressing packets that you have a favorite, like ranch dressing or Italian dressing or French onion. You can add it right to that yogurt, and it has a beautiful, beautiful tang. So, all right, I'm gonna give this a little squeeze of fresh lemon juice because citrus makes everything better. All right, so a little fresh lemon juice in there, and then finish giving it a nice stir. And there we go, leftover chicken into a beautiful chicken salad. Yeah. All right, so 2 recipes down, 1 to go. Right. So our chicken is still simmering here, beautiful. You're still getting nice and tender. Onions are getting tender. Sauce is not thickening too much, so we want to keep all of those things in mind as we're. All right, so the final recipe I have for you today is apple pie overnight oats. Now, I sent a whole bunch of recipes over for you guys to have bunch of variety for overnight oats. I know overnight oats has a big craze, and everybody's making all kinds of different overnight oats, but not everybody loves them because they either don't know how to mix them, they don't know how to, how long do I refrigerate them, what kind of oats do I have? Oh, it's too labor intensive. It really isn't, especially if you're already making a meal where you have all of these ingredients out. It really is a quick thing. And I often, while I'm making dinner, will make something for lunch the next day or for another dinner for another night, because I got to maximize my time because we got kids, soccer, dance, and all those fun things. So trying to work full time and maximize the most of your evenings and feed your family. It's a tough balance. It really is a tough balance. So I've got coconut milk. So this is the remainder of the can. So 1 can of coconut milk. Now you could choose to use canned coconut milk, or you can use, they have refrigerated coconut milk, which is a little bit lighter. It's a little thinner. It doesn't have the fat separation in it. You can use it in coffee and cereal, and it's really nice. So, but 1 can that I used in this recipe went for the 6 servings of curry chicken with apples, and it went to the apple pie oatmeal. So depending on how big of serving you like, and your kids like, your spouse likes, you can double this recipe, triple this recipe, and you will get that bang for your buck that you're looking for. So we've got coconut milk, we've got the yogurt that we used in the chicken salad. We've got, this one's hard to see because my ingredients are all melting together. We've got honey. Now you can use honey or maple syrup. We've got a variety of spices. The spices are cinnamon, and I got fresh ginger, nutmeg, cloves, all dry spices in there, and the fresh ginger in there. And then we have chia seed, and then also vanilla extract. Now, if you don't want vanilla extract, you can get almond extract or orange extract or mint extract, whatever you like, whatever you prefer. Vanilla really is really nice for this recipe. So chia seeds full of fiber, and it helps to thicken the overnight oats. Really, really nice. So you have a nice thick consistency when you go to eat them the next day. All right, so off camera again, so you can see what I'm doing here. So I got these nice little jars. You can get these on Amazon. They're super cheap. I use them for work, so I got a whole case of like 25 for less than 20 bucks. And you just make sure you hand wash them because all these little plastic containers don't last. But if you have mason jars, that works too. And these are great because they're perfect for serving of the overnight oats. So a 6 or 8 ounce jar is perfect. Measure your oats, and I split the recipe. So we're having 2 servings here, which is really plenty because it's very filling. Mix all my ingredients in the bowl. I'm going to add in the coconut milk, and the coconut milk and yogurt are what are going to activate the chia. Okay, and the chia, if chia is not in part of your dietary regimen, it's a wonderful addition. You can sprinkle it on top of salads. You can sprinkle it into your oatmeal. You can put it into your baked goods. You don't want to put too much. A tablespoon is more than enough. This recipe it serves the purpose of thickening the liquid mixture. So what makes this apple pie is the apples that we have. As we were cooking everything else and cutting up apples, I cut up some apples and dropped them right into the pot. So as I'm cooking the curry chicken with apples, these apples are on the stove next to the rice, cooking, simmering, so they're nice and tender. I threw a cinnamon stick in there. I threw a little bit, I had a fresh orange, so I put a little orange in there. You can add any other spices that you want. And if you continue cooking this, cover it with liquid and let it simmer until it just all the liquid is gone. And so these are just some beautiful spiced apples, but you can continue cooking this and get apple sauce out of it, which is really delicious and another really nourishing dish for your kids and your whole family. All right, so I'm going to layer, see if you can see this, I'm going to layer some of the apples on top of the dry oats. And this is what's going to give this overnight oats such a beautiful flavor. So once you get all of this in there, you only want about 2 tablespoons of your fruit in there. And then I'm going to pour in here. So I'm going to pour in this mixture. I might actually switch it over instead of in the bowl. Whisk it in the bowl. And now I'm going to add it back to the measuring cup that I used for my coconut milk. And this helps me not make such a mess, right? So I'm going to pour this in right there, about 3/4 of the way up. because we want to give some room for the oats. They will expand and the chia will thicken. So you just finish equally each one. There we go. Now I've got some pecans. I have almonds that I used in the chicken salads. I could use that. Walnuts. Walnuts are probably the most nourishing of all of the tree nuts. They have the highest level of omegas. They're super heart healthy. So if you're going to choose a nut, choose a variety because they all have their benefits. Full of calcium, full of protein. Nuts are always a wonderful addition to your meals. All right, now we had dried cranberries we used in the chicken salad, so you can use that in there. But look at this. Shake it up. Put that lid on, shake it up. Refrigerate for up to 4 hours. It has cute little labels. You get a chalk marker in a little box and you can write it on there and whose name so kids can make their own because you've got all these ingredients ready, right? Have them come up and make their own. It's a great way to get them involved in making recipes. Pop them in the fridge, 4 hours to overnight, and you'll have a beautiful, nice, thick overnight oat. You notice no sugar, right? We used honey, we used apples. Those are your sweeteners here because we don't need that extra processed sugar. No need for it. Right into the fridge. Right. And so now we are going to get our chicken here. I am going to saute. I know you can't hear me very well over here. But I want to get that finished cooked so I can show you a beautiful finished dish. Turn that on. The chicken is almost fully cooked. So as this is finishing, we can sprinkle in a little of fresh parsley. I love adding fresh herbs into all of the dishes. I always keep them on hand. I grow them in the yard in pots. I absolutely love using fresh herbs. It makes such a difference in the flavor of your dishes and the aroma of your dishes. Plus, you're adding such wonderful nutrient value when you're adding fresh herbs. All right. So you can add fresh herbs into your sauteed spinach as that's cooking too. And that's a wonderful opportunity to have nice additional nutrient value. So if you don't like spinach, you could use kale. Just make sure baby kale is so much nicer. It cooks really quickly. Adult kale, which is your big, large kale, it's a little tougher. That's wonderful for kale chips. My kids love kale chips. My daughter will eat an entire cookie sheet pan full of kale chips before I even get them off the pan. She loves them. You can add your favorite dry spices, a little bit of olive oil, rub down those big adult kale leaves and pop them in the oven. 15-20 minutes on 350 and you've got. So I am sauteing garlic and some olive oil here. Okay. Remember the size of your pan depends on how much oil you want to use, like 1 or 2 tablespoons. I'm going to drop this whole thing in here. It cooks down real quick. So while that is, it's going to take maybe 2 or 3 minutes. We're going to plate ready here. I'm going to toss the spinach. Now I'm going to add a little bit of fresh cracked black pepper to my spinach and just a tiny little bit of kosher salt. But that garlic and olive oil, all that you need to make it really delicious, flavorful. Little bit of kosher salt there. That was about maybe a quarter of a teaspoon, so not very much salt. So when I tell you not very much salt, it really is not very much salt. And when you see how quickly the spinach cooks, you're going to be amazed. If you're not already doing this, you should start because it's a beautiful, quick way to get a nice, nourishing vegetable that's full of iron, has lots of vitamin C. Wonderful for you. Now this is, I'm going to turn this heat off and look at this. It's already cooked. And that's just going to finish wilting down very quickly with the residual heat from the pan. We call that carryover cooking. So it's going to finish cooking. I'm going to add the rice here. You guys can see. Add the rice down, so we'll have a nice bed of rice. All right. Now, brown rice, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt and pepper. Got our beautiful garlic sauteed garlic and olive oil spinach. Really, really nice, really quick and easy, almost no prep at all to do this vegetable. It's really delicious. Off. And then we have our curry chicken, apples. Look at that beautiful chicken breast on there. Right. And you would have more for this. Like I said, I didn't do as many as I had planned just because of the size of the size of my pan here. So for demo purposes, now look at this. Beautiful dish. This beautiful sauce. Look at how nice and thick that was. Goes over your rice, your veggies. Your apples still have some really nice consistency to them. And then we sprinkle a little bit of green onion over the top. Now that adds another boost of flavor. Some more nutrients. And there you have tonight's dinner. All right. If there are, anybody have any questions? Any thoughts, any comments? Any way I can be of assistance? And if not, please try these recipes, enjoy them. Your family will enjoy them. I've also included some recipes for a crunch wrap and a breakfast burrito, which had the same cost breakdown as the curry chicken with apples and the apple pie spice overnight oats. And you'll see the recipe cost versus the individual serving cost. And a crunch wrap, you go to fast food and you're getting a crunch wrap for $5-6. You can make one for less than $2 serving. So, and you can make that whole recipe for I think it's around $8 if I'm not mistaken. It was a while since I made that recipe, but and you can feed a whole family of 4 with that. Using those same ingredients, you can make the breakfast burritos, and now you're getting that bang for your buck at the grocery store. So that's all I have for you. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I hope you try and make these recipes at home. healthy eating. I've got 6 kids all together, a blended family, and they will all eat all of these recipes. So I cook like this every day at home. I don't only I do practice what I preach. I don't only teach. I actually practice what I preach. So I'm always available. Laura is gonna put a link, Healthy Chesapeake. You can reach out via email. Happy to send recipes. And I hold community cooking classes at the libraries. So I'm happy to look for a series for Healthy Chef, and I'm happy to help anytime.
Teresa, thank you so much. We have gotten several comments from attendees thanking you for your time and your information and the recipes. Speaking for myself as someone who cooks because people need to eat and not necessarily because I love it, I definitely appreciate, the ideas that you've given on how to reuse ingredients. I think that is great because groceries are extremely expensive these days. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your wealth of information. Like we have mentioned a couple times, we will be sending out a few recipes, the ones that Teresa made tonight, and some additional recipes also. So we're so thankful for our partnership with Healthy Chesapeake, and very thankful that you were able to do this webinar tonight. So thank you so much. Got time for any last minute questions that anybody might have for Teresa. Otherwise, we will get those recipes sent out to you. And let me just make sure that we've answered all the questions. And it looks like we have. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending tonight. Don't forget this webinar is being recorded, and it will be uploaded to the Chesapeake Public Schools YouTube channel within the next week or so. We thank you so much for joining us. And remember, families and communities work better together. Have a good evening, everyone.